We have looked everywhere, far and wide, up and below, and we are so excited to tell you that we have found the answer. That's right. After going through a complex set of equations, some research study material, calls to some prestigious institutions, and some top secret stuff that I cannot tell you about, we have figured out everything about the universe. And in today's video, we are going to talk about that precisely. You know what? I'm kidding. That's not true. I mean, I gave up the hope of figuring out what letters are doing with numbers in an equation. In my 10th grade itself, there's a reason I chose commerce, but this does not quench the human curiosity in us, which is why in today's book talk, I am so happy to be introducing you to A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson. Hi everybody, my name is Tanya. Welcome to the Legal Edges channel. And आज की वीडियो में हम बात करने वाले हैं about this amazing non-fiction book that helps keep our curiosity alive and answers all our questions about the universe. Well, nearly all our questions about the universe without having to dwell with all those complex equations and research papers. So, without further ado, let's go. Okay, so first things first, a little bit about the author. Bill Bryson is an American born author and he spent a fair share of his time in the UK. So his interaction with the different cultures and his travel also translates in his writing. He has penned down some of the more famous non-fictional books. But the book that we are talking about today is A Short History of Nearly Everything. This talks about his approach to science, and it is an extremely funny and fresh take on this particular genre. In fact, this was so well received that it became one of the biggest selling non-fiction book for over a decade in UK. So that should give you a little bit of incentive to pick this up. Okay, so some interesting facts about the book, just to pique your interest a little bit before we go into the analysis slash review. The genre is non-fiction. If you're new to this genre, Bill Bryson is a great way to start. His writing is extremely fresh and he talks about very interesting topics in a very comical way. So you will enjoy it and does not feel like non-fiction as it is stereotyped to be. The writing styles are expository, of course, because he's talking about science. So there are a lot of new concepts that he's exposing the audience to. It is anecdotal and narrative, as there are parts of his own experience with science and how he came to be towards these certain, what is his viewpoint and how he came to have them. It is sprinkled across the book, so it does not feel so heavy on the scientific knowledge. The objective or the motive which he says or which he introduces us in the first chapter itself is he tells us that when he was a kid he really wanted to have this incline towards science, but all the books that he had, they never addressed the questions that he really wanted to know the answers to. So they dealt with facts or figures, but a lot of the depth or the what or the how or how do you even know this was never answered as a child, and which is why he felt that it was important that we have a book like this. So, I mean, this is spot on for how I felt approaching science as a subject. So let's see what else he has in store for us. Okay, so just touching upon a few themes and symbols across the book. Of course, I do not want to give a lot away, but academic writing and inspiration is one of them. Like I said, one of the objectives of him writing the book was he felt that scientific writing or academic writing was so complicated and inaccessible at times, and also it did not really answer the questions that would quench his curiosity. So he wanted to take this fresh approach, and it is a recurring theme through the book as he tells us how he first came across this topic and how he's breaking it down for his readers. It is about science and its discoveries. There is a very interesting take about how some scientific discoveries are made. Who do we usually, accredit them to, and who are actually the people behind the curtain that are not mentioned sometimes? And it also talks about the awe of existence, about how these millions and millions of atoms have come together so that you and I can be, but we'll talk a little bit more about that as we continue in the video. Some of the interesting symbols are a mattress or the cathedral with a fly inside and a rope ladder. Now, all of these symbols have been used to make some of the scientific theories or ideas easier for the reader to understand, which is why I'm not going to give a lot away talking about them. But I'm sure with how generic these objects are, you are definitely going to be curious how he has drawn an analogy of it in the scientific world. So if you haven't been sold on the idea of reading this book so far, let me give you a little bit more incentive. All right. So first of all, the book answers some of the most interesting questions about science. I mean, questions like how the universe came to be, how is that all of this exists today, how is it that you and I are here? And you have to admit, it would be pretty cool to know the answer to this, right? Secondly, I assure you, if you go through this book, you're going to be one of the most interesting person at a party. Imagine a person whose small talk is not about the weather, but is about answers to questions like why do we exist? Or why is it that we are here? Or how did we come to be here? I mean, I would sit by you all throughout the party if you had answers to these questions. Thirdly, it does cover a lot of different aspects of science. It is not just about atoms or protons. It also covers astronomy, geology, chemistry, physics, and a lot more is to unravel in this book. And like I keep saying, it is such an interesting take on it. He has broken it down to be so much more relatable to people like you and me who might not understand the scientific language or the numericals and the equations involved per se. And the fourth more important incentive to give you is that this book is a scientific validation to existence. I mean, come on, the first chapter of the book itself will tell you that how all of these atoms have somehow beat every single other permutation or combination of existence to come here and so that you and I can exist. I mean, you have to admit, it is cool to know that you and I we were meant to be, you were meant to be here to watch this video. So if you ever have that existential crisis, you know you have a good book to rely on to tell you that the fact that you exist is scientific proof that you were meant to be here. And if all of this is not incentive enough, I assure you, if you go through this book, this guy is going to seem a lot more funnier when you watch this series. So I hope this helps. But if the avid reader in you is still not convinced, I assure you, Bryson's writing is profound, it is witty, it is humorous at all the right places, it has a very interesting take, and it makes science and the journey of, exposing yourself to this genre so relatable in context. I assure you, if I had a book like this growing up or as part of my syllabus, other than those long drag books that we had in our curriculum, I may have picked an alternative career path. I probably. I mean, I cannot sell this book enough. And honestly, Bryson's writing itself is great, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy it immensely. So, thank you so much for sticking till the end of the video. Much like all the atoms in the universe, Legal Edge is also adamant to ensure that your process and your preparation for your law entrance exams keep going. So, if you like this content, if you want to know more about law entrance examination, do remember to follow us on all our social media handles of YouTube, Telegram, Instagram, and Facebook. If you have any questions at all about your preparation, you can call the number on the screen. It is our one-stop contact for all questions Legal Edge. Legal Edge is also now giving out free demo classes. You can register for them by the link in the description box. And thank you so much for watching. Do not forget to like and comment what you thought about the review as well as the book once you're done giving it a whirl.